Australian comedian Hannah Gadsby burst onto the scene in 2018 with their Netflix special, Nanette. Though it was a stand-up special, it had serious and poignant moments which resonated with a worldwide audience. And Hannah won an Emmy. They are now on a U.S. comedy tour, and our producer Joseph had a chance to chat with them.
Every other year I write a show about where I am in the world. I'm as confused as the world is, so it's internal chaos meets external chaos, I think.
We are definitely in some interesting times right now. I think a lot of us Americans, I know I did, tuned into you when your Emmy Award-winning special Nanette came out in 2018. Were you surprised by people's reaction to that show?
Yes and no. I think I performed it live in Australia and the UK, and in the room it was, had a profound effect. So there was a certain assumption that that would translate to the screen, but I think I forgot to scale up. Like before it went on Netflix, it was, one room at a time, a couple of thousand people. But this put it at a scale that I don't think to this day I could fully wrap my head around. But what can you say?
Well, yeah, I remember when it came out, several of my friends were telling me, you've got to see this new special, Nanette. It's a comedy special. That's all I knew. So when I went into it, I was expecting it just to be comedy, maybe not having such serious, tones to it, which I think is just super powerful. So I'm just curious, what was it like preparing for that show?
It was, let's call it hot. I had a lot of things I wanted to say quite urgently. It was fairly anger forward show. I think it was a lot. It was a lot because it was a fairly vulnerable show as well. To sort of combine anger with vulnerability was a tricky balance. So it was an exhausting and profound experience. I have to be honest, I haven't really thought about it much since, I think, because it was so all-consuming, and now it's just this specter. But since then, I've done 2 specials, well, 3, I guess you can say, where it's just jokes. Like I have not fallen into the pattern of, having a less comedic patch to the show. Although maybe this one, maybe.
People will just have to come and find out.
Right.
So your latest Netflix comedy special, which I watched, is called Gender Agenda. I love that title. What does that title mean to you?
It's play on words. It's also pushing the Australian accent more than I think Americans would say the gender agenda, where we say gender agenda. So that's what that title means to me. I wanted to sort of make it a little playful and just as the first foot forward, because I think when it comes to comedy and conversations around gender, it seems to be a little less playful and more vitriolic and etc.
How did you pick the people that were going to be in that special?
We sort of cast the net wide, and we had a lot of people approach us. And honestly, we could make a couple more easy. Like there's such an incredible amount of talent, sort of, trying to break through on the next level. And it would be great to be able to give them a platform, but I'm not the boss.
We've had 2 of those people on New Day before, and they were both excellent guests.
Oh, so, excellent.
As society is kind of progressing, I think a lot more people are starting to understand the differences between gender and sexual orientation. What do you think about that?
Oh, as an older person, I've gone through that. I think when I was a kid, it was just lumped in, and a lot of what's happened to me, has been, the negative stuff has been sort of, a complicated mix of the two, of like how people perceive my gender and how people perceive my sexuality, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's, for me, I throw autism into that to make, because I like 3, so let's put 3 complicating factors in. But, honestly, I don't think we understand ourselves. I think it's all guesswork. I feel like where we are now might change, and I'd like to keep that loose. I think it's going to change for the better. Like, I don't want it to change backwards, but I think, when we're trying to change language and people's perceptions, we're in that sticky bit, and there's a lot of pushback, a lot of, violence and legal pushback, which I think is worrying. So it's hard to understand how we can move forward whilst moving backwards at such a speed, but, just got to keep moving like a shark.
Absolutely. So you mentioned autism just now, and I like to think intersectionally, we're not all just one thing or another. We can be many things at one time. So you're part of the queer community. You are also part of the autism community. How has that intersectional aspect of your life impacted your comedy?
Well, it's not a rare intersection. I think there's a lot of this intersection that exists. But again, it's to do a lot with the human brain, which we don't understand. But I really enjoy listening to autistic people speak about their experiences because we're generally very direct. And, we don't sort of hop on the social bandwagons as easily. And so I think, adding our voice to the mix, I think is an incredibly important one because it's a sort of, we come from left fields.
It's good to hear. Well, I'm curious, how do you feel knowing that you have brought so much needed representation to both comedy and just media in general?
How do I feel? I feel a little overwhelmed. Like, I'm just a little guy, right? And it's just a lot of pressure, and people have a lot of expectations, which, I get paid the big bucks. It's my job now, but I have no training. I don't come from, I come from Australia, and we're very not ambitious as a cultural. We like to put ourselves down. And then I come from Tasmania, which is again removed from that. And I feel the older I get, the more sort of I understand how isolated my upbringing was. In this world too, when everyone's so hyper-connected, I spent the first 20 years of my life under a rock. And those skill sets I developed under said rock are proving fairly useless in this world. But, I feel like I've done enough. Like, I feel like the show is a great thing. I don't know how personally I can add to that, but my struggle is really not important in this moment in history. So, I've got that to rest back on.
Thanks to Hannah and Joseph for that very thoughtful conversation. And just a reminder, Hannah's show is in Seattle at the Moore Theater this Friday, June 7th. And there are some tickets left for the show, so go check it out.